Welcome. This is episode number 17. The title is Hen or Egg. So what comes first, the hen or the egg? Since 1 year I've sold my place close to the colony, in which I was staying for more than 40 years of my life, to Joe, son of my lawyer. Now, this time, I'm staying here only for 4 weeks. And I'm sitting inside my old house. How come? No idea. Nothing here seems to have changed. All things, including old torn pairs of sandals, kitchen items, furniture, etc., are the way they were when I left for good last year. This has come about also because Joe, who, by the way, is my student in the special training, for reasons of his own, wants to keep things exactly as I have set them up before I left for Brazil for good. It is a weird experience to be here and see and feel everything as it used to be for many years. Even Ed, my daughter, who by now has got her own office at the colony and who came here yesterday for dinner, was equally shocked. Realities seem to intermingle. Lakshmi, the old cleaning woman, treats me as before, feeding me with limes and mangoes from the trees I have planted and watered since 40 years. There is a timid black dog, the survivor, whom I call it, still devoted to me. There are the trees and the plants that silently greet me, the birds that sing louder, and the snakes that are watching. The beauty of the place is the same. So is the house, and so is the garden, and so are the challenges. What is new are a number of things, like some cooperation between me and my ex-wife in regard to the fate of my younger daughter in England, or the situation at Hope, the place where Clemens, the young husband of Co, is being forced to stay out of the country for a year now, or the sales of one part of the orchard, the only well-running farm at the colony. The developments at Hope are serious. Hope is a settlement and community which since 1973 my partner Co and I were building up, before I bought my own piece of land later. Co, still the Lady of Hope, as I call her, is running it now alone as best as she can, but she needs better her husband, whom she married after I purchased my own land. Ages ago, I had been traveling with her and her small daughter from Germany to India in a van in order to join the colony. Since then, our ways outwardly separated. But what happened recently hit her hard. Her young husband, with whom she has been living happily for the last 25 years, building up a running business, has been put on a blacklist by the police and refused entry 9 months ago, when both of them returned from their yearly holidays in Germany. The reason they believe why he was refused entry was some confrontation with an officer belonging to a task force set up by the government in order to trace the smuggling of antique from India. According to Co, my ex-partner, they never did anything wrong, but this as I know by my own experience, matters only in limited ways in this country. However, Ko now is alone with the place and the company, till her husband will be allowed to come back. They are talking daily, several times a day via WhatsApp. It is not easy for her to survive, but she manages well so far. Also, her health is not the best after several surgeries. Yet our inner connection still is the same. To meet her in this situation closes for me some circle. Next week I will meet Guruji, the Kalari teacher, when he will return from Kerala. September 1993. About 20 years ago, the extension and renovation of the new house we had purchased took longer than expected. Weeks passed by and months after the earthquake and after the recovery of my elder daughter. Life was going on. The new year started, spring came and summer. I continued my work and my involvement as before, but with one difference. In the back of my mind, the voice to stop my business activities grew louder and louder. The summer holidays, that is in South India, May and June, where temperatures are touching the critical mark of 40 degrees Celsius and above, we usually were spending in Germany at the ex-dacha of my father. After years of legal confrontations and fights with the reunification of Germany, our family had received the house back. The kids just loved the place, and so did I. Both my parents by then had accepted my two brown-colored daughters as full members of the family, and loved and cherished them as their grandchildren. That both of them happened to be half Indian was not easy to take for my parents after their life in the Third Reich and later in East Germany before they came to the West. Mental and energetic patterns govern our social existence, and the older we get in our life, the tougher it will be to change them. Anyway, my daughters and I were usually enjoying our stay inside the dacha each time we went there, and especially in the summer after the illness of my daughter, because we somehow felt that something was about to change again, and it did. When we returned to India, nothing much new seemed to have been happened on the outside. On one hand, the construction of the new house was going on. On the other hand, my work and related activities still were increasing in scope and volume, in spite of my attempts to wind them down. I already had gotten the first assignment in northern India when we arrived. During my holidays in Germany, I had abstained from talking about my true plans to my German parent company. I felt that the time for this was not ready yet, and besides, my wife and I badly needed the funds in order to complete our new house at the colony. So everything looked like going on as before, but as appearances deceive, I learned that one should never trust things as they seem to be. My wife came to me one day for another talk. She said, "For a change, I have good news. The construction of the new part of the house is completed now. I think the remaining renovation work can be done easily, while at least I and the kids can be staying inside the house. They have their own room and will not be disturbed so much, and I can manage. The advantage will be that I stay at the site continuously and can have a better supervision. Also, the problems of security will be less. Then, as soon as our room is painted, you move in as well. Her logic at times was to the point, so I readily and gladly voiced my agreement. Thus, soon all three of them happily continued to stay in the new house, while I started to sleep there only every now and then. These arrangements gave some more freedom and also space. Since several years our marital life was gone, and the open arrangement we had arrived at between us would have it that we kept our marriage for the sake of the kids intact, but that each one of us had all freedom to move into any direction we would choose. In other words, both of us had agreed to an open marriage, and we made use of it. I really cannot say which one of us took the first steps, but soon after the agreement, another man appeared in the life of my wife. He was a colonist from Austria, or possibly even Germany. The only memory I recalled of him is limited to two impressions. He paid for a washing machine in our new house, and one day when I came there, my daughters removed his sandals from the step of the door with great satisfaction, throwing them into the garden. Anyway, he disappeared, and another man came, and then still another, I believe. Whereas I, for my part, was fulfilling well my share of our creation. But this is another story. At the same time, the political and at times physical confrontations and fights inside the colony continued unabated. On one side, always were the bad ones, and on the other side, the good ones. And the ones who were directly the asuras, and under their control, the devils, and then the others who were doing their job for the devas, the good ones. Forgotten the words of the founders. As long as you consider to be one side or the other, you necessarily are outside the truth. My wife, who at that time was in direct close contact with the different feuding groups inside the colony, involved herself head over heels, whereas I had lost interest in all of that. Also, I did not have any time for this. Autumn came, winter, Christmas, and the new year started again. Nothing seemed to have changed really. It was a year when my elder daughter was to join this colony school. She already attended the colony kindergarten, and for her it was just a matter of moving on to the school. So, on this front, things did not look at all bad. 17th September 2017, colony. 24 years later, I entered into my diary the following. What has appeared in my mind today while I was going to town on my motorbike was a dream I experienced at night with some mysterious woman, in whatever reality this might have taken place. Probably it was a mixture of levels, possibly including past life experiences. This view would somehow correspond to the position my present Brazilian partner has now, when she is witnessing all kinds of dream events involving herself. She claims that some of them belong to some past lives of hers, or to some part in another reality. I have discarded this idea as unlikely and wishful thinking, because I do not think we have reached this stage of development. But now I am not so sure anymore. I conclude, however, reflecting on it, that even if my encounter with this woman of my dream maybe is nothing but a reflection of different levels of consciousness, the real relevant question is whether this experience will have any effect on my present reality, apart from its obvious influence on the mental and energetic patterns that keep on causing the world we live in, at least partially. So the major question, which has been troubling me for years, now has come up again. What is the relation between the different levels and worlds we seem to be exposed to? One answer is, each one of us is creating for him or herself her own reality, meaning subjective realities that we keep on creating forever unless we stop. The second possible answer is a response to another question. Do so-called objective realities existing with or without us and with or without our interference exist for real? And if so, do they correspond to truth? She had answered this in an unmistakable way by a clear statement, at least to my limited understanding. There is both, and we need to know what is what. According to my experiences and capacity to evaluate facts, the final understanding of this statement is one of the most important and mysterious secrets for us to find out in our lifetime. So again, what comes first, the hen or the egg? Anyway, back to 1993. In late summer, 40 years before, I again was being called to the headquarters in Germany, and I was to come latest in the beginning of fall. The main reason was a tragic event that had hit everybody involved hard. The owner and founder of the company unexpectedly had died of cancer. And only in the presence of the closest family, the burial was taking place. I had known him well, and I felt deeply sorry. Apart from conveying personally my condolences to the family, I also was to discuss the future dealings of the company in India. Before his death, the big boss had appointed a caretaker for the firm, a Swiss financial specialist, who was to run the affairs of the business and safeguard the interests of the family, especially those of the children of the owner. At the same time, I had received an offer for a joint business venture with one of the largest Indian companies in the Indian market. For the German company, it was to be the biggest project of its kind it ever had envisioned. As I had arranged the possible deal, it was essential that I participated in the preparations as well. The project would cover India as a whole, the headquarters being in Agra. The Indian partner was well known to me. In fact, I had made some special arrangement with him already on my own, involving my place at the colony as a location for a pilot project. I was to be involved in a big way. When I later looked at the sequence of those events many years afterwards, the involuntary question came up. Now, what was really real and what was not? And here we are again with the puzzle of the hen and the egg, and who came first. From one point of view, one can argue that all what I was just describing belonged to the past. True, gone, done with. It was a past, period. Have I learned from it? Honestly, I cannot answer this question. I only know that I do not know. Fact was, as it turned out a little later, that the newly appointed Swiss financial specialist traveled to India in order to finalize the deal I had initiated. I met him in Agra, where the headquarters of our Indian partner was located. As usual, at this period of the year it was hot and moist, not at all the best climatic conditions for a European. Much less so if one considers the reality of the Indian day-to-day life, even if one is fortunate enough to reside in a super modern 5-star hotel with air conditions and dozens of willing servants who will do anything to please the foreign visitor. Stomach trouble in India is common, and one must not take this personally, even in a 5-star hotel, though it is unpleasant nevertheless. But if this visitor thinks and says about his host, "But why are the uniform of the poor people serving our potential partner torn? Does their boss not enough money to supply them with proper clothes?" Or if instead of a fully mechanized and computerized machine hall, actual human beings with bare breasts because of the heat fill in melted steel into molds held by wooden poles, sweating and suffering like in the medieval ages, one should at least ask why this was the way it was and what was the objective behind it, especially if the production of such a factory is declared to be an outstanding example of good management in the whole of the country. And, by the way, many times exceeding the turnover of the German company. And if a foreign businessman was visiting his potential partner in India, does not ask these questions, does not ask how many people earn a living by it, how many families can survive this way, it is just poor judgment, or is there anything else behind, or both? And if and when, at the end of such ill-fated visit, confidential documents from Germany revealing the real profit margin of the Germans in the proposed deal, because of a silly mistake of their staff in German headquarters, are being displayed incidentally on the screen of the computers of the King of the North, how he called himself, was this coincidence? And if not, what was it? Even contemplating on the Taj Mahal did not help answering my questions. After the consequent breakdown of the deal, it was quite easy for me to explain and justify my decision to start pulling out. This happened in October the same year. I already had communicated my position to the Germans. Within a year I would resign. After this major event, one evening, while I was sitting in the house of my parents, at their dining table, reflecting on everything, a letter from my wife in India came. She clearly communicated to me a number of things. First, I was not welcome anymore in the new house. Second, I was not welcome anymore to see my children more than once a month. Third, if I forced my intrusions in any way, suitable legal and other measures would be taken. Now, what comes first? The hen or the egg? Namaste.